I'm Rick Nelson, and on behalf of the AASHTO Committee on Maintenance, their Maintenance Operations Technical Working Group, and the Winter Weather Management Technical Service Program, formerly known as SICOP, SICOP Talks Winter Ops is proud to host this fourth National Winter Maintenance and Road Weather Briefing. These briefings provide the organizations working in the severe weather and maintenance operations space an opportunity to showcase their efforts to help you achieve your winter maintenance and operations mission. This briefing features Paul Pisano, chair of the Transportation Research Board's Committee on Road Weather. Hi, Paul. It's good to see you again.
Hey, Rick, great to see you too.
Paul, before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be chair of the Road Weather Committee.
Sure. So I used to work for the Federal Highway Administration, where I was the team leader for the road weather and work zone management programs. In fact, I started the road weather program at Federal Highway in 1999, and so I was doing road weather for a very long time. And I retired from Federal Highway in 2019, and with the intention of staying engaged in some level within the road weather community. And the opportunity opened up to chair this committee in March of 2020. And so I jumped at the opportunity, and I just completed my first term in April of 2023 and started my second term just at the same time, and it will go through April of 2026.
There's there's really good stuff happening in the TRB community and in road weather, and we're glad to see you as chair and keep the ball rolling.
My pleasure.
And so speaking of that, Paul, what's been going on in the road weather committee?
Yeah, so thanks, Rick. I've got a quick presentation here to walk through all the things that are going on within the committee. Let me bring that up. Okay, so the Road Weather Committee is part of the Maintenance and Preservation section at TRB, and so this is an update of all the things that we've been doing over the past year or so, and where we're headed. So first of all, just the overall scope of the committee. Our scope is to provide a forum promoting the exchange of information on the effects of weather on surface transportation, both within and between the transportation and meteorological communities. Our objective is to shape future research and technology transfer to further understand road weather, with the ultimate goal of minimizing the impacts of weather on the surface transportation system, especially with respect to safety and mobility. So key words here that I just wanted to highlight: bridging the transportation and meteorological communities. I mean, that's always been at the heart of road weather, is getting those two communities to talk to each other about the challenges that weather imparts upon the transportation system. But also the shaping future research. I mean, one of our core objectives is to develop research need statements with the hope and expectation that they will be funded, whether that's by NCHRP, through a pooled fund program like Aurora or Clear Roads, or some other academic institution, but also not only looking at the research needs, but also how to translate research successes into useful operations. So that whole we want to play a role in the tech transfer side of things as well.
Mhm.
And again, with the overall intent of making this system safer and more efficient. So we have a triennial strategic plan that was written over the course of the last year that is leading our efforts to and helping us focus in on what, that obviously that scope is very broad, and we need to say, okay, well, what does that mean? What are we going to be doing? And so we have a plan that has helped us to zero in on the most critical needs. And our outlook statement, as captured here, is whether we're traveling across town or across the country for business or pleasure, weather affects the way we move. The Road Weather Committee will work to better understand weather and its connection with the safe and efficient movement of people and goods, and will do so in coordination with other committees. And that's critical, I think, that other committees, because we know that it's not something we can solve by ourselves, but we need to work with others, such as the Winter Maintenance Community and the Extreme Weather and Climate Change Adaptation Committee, among others.
Mhm.
So that is our outlook statement. And I want to just pause and give a shout out to Sean Trulson and Mike Burton, who played a critical role in drafting this strategic plan over the course of last year. It's great to have committee members and friends who step up to take some action, and they did that. So thanks to them. So we are we just had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and with the intent of now putting that plan into action. But let me first talk about the critical issues that we've identified. First is compounding events and new operational norms resulting from climate change. And this is the extreme weather conversation that we're all in the midst of, right? We're seeing weather is changing, and we're seeing those changes and the way they affect the transportation system. And we need to address that. We need to embrace that and figure out how to be better prepared for when these big events happen, whether that's a snowstorm, more flooding events, more windstorms, whatever it might be. And that's one of the things about our committee is that we are all weather. So we're looking at all different impacts and how we can address them and recognize that things are changing and we need to be on top of that. The second critical issue is megadata. I mean, that's one of the things that's been, great, but overwhelming in terms of the amount of data that we now have available to us in regards to weather and the transportation system. Whether that's data coming from road weather information systems that are installed on the side of the road or put onto uh, state fleets to collect road weather data, or it's floating car data like data that we can get from INRIX or other sources to tell us about the state of the road network, and as well weather-related aspects of data of the road that we can get from cars like grip as a way to understand the slickness. I mean, so and the weather community's got a ton of radar data and satellite data, and it's wonderful, but it can be overwhelming. And
Right.
so our plan is looking at how do we, what data is the most useful for the decisions that we have to make, and understanding what works, what doesn't work, and how to capitalize on all that data. The third area is knowledge, information, and innovation created by multiple agencies. And this is really our tech transfer issue. How do we see that these research findings get put into practice? The fourth area is weather-based congestion. Again, recognizing that we're not just about winter maintenance, but that we are about all aspects of um, weather and its impact on the system, including in regarding congestion. The fifth area is weather-based boundary conditions for connected and automated autonomous vehicle technologies. So again, we recognizing the emergence of connected and automated vehicles and both the challenges they face in operating in different weather conditions and how they can make sure that they operate as safely as possible, but also as potential data sources because of all of the new road and weather-related data we could get from these vehicles. And huge opportunity, and we're still learning about all of those challenges and how best to capitalize on that. And then the last area is our commitment to diversity and certainly wanting to make sure that we have a broad spectrum of participants engaged in the community and the opportunity is there for all. As I said, we are at the point now, well, we've been going through a big discovery phase over the past year of what do we know about each of these critical issues and where do we need to go to pull out the research needs within these areas, but also the successes and things that have worked for people that we can then promote as operational solutions for operating agencies. So we're in the midst of that whole process of discovery and the deep dive into what we know about each of them, and then the dissemination of the results. So to that end, we have conducted what we call the triple play, which was activities three major activities we hosted from the period of November of 2022 until May of 2023. These three events engaged the community and helped us to have really great conversations about all of the different challenges that weather puts upon the roadway network and where we need to be focusing our efforts. And it certainly helped to even hone our strategic plan. So the first activity was a webinar that was in November that was entitled Managing Severe Storms and Environmental Impacts. And we had about 300 people, which is a good turnout for a TRB webinar.
That happens
And
before TRB. right?
Yes, right. So this was the idea, right? Let's initiate the conversation with some really good presentations in November, so that when we for the second item, when we come to the annual meeting, we hosted a workshop entitled "Resilient and Sustainable Approaches for Road Weather and Winter Maintenance." And I'm sorry, I failed to mention that all three of these activities were done in collaboration and strong coordination with the Winter Maintenance Committee. So
Mhm.
these were joint activities between the road weather and winter maintenance committees. Um, Although I guess I did mention that at the top there. So um, we did the workshop, which was held, as I said, in January during the annual meeting. Really good turnout there, and a lot of good conversations, which led to then the International Road Weather and Winter Maintenance Conference that was held May 9th and 10th of 2023 in Washington, D.C. And I've got slides about each of these, so I'll talk about each of these in a little more detail.
Okay.
First of all, for the webinar, we had, as I said, three really interesting and engaging presentations. The first was Predicting Road Weather Emergencies, Advancements in Storm Forecasting and Risk Communication by Chad Hahn at the National Weather Service in Des Moines, Iowa. The Loss of Salt from Road Service, A Coin with Two Sides, Environmental Implications from Göran Blomqvist at VTI in Sweden. And Leveraging Technology for Better Materials Management and Cost Savings at MassDOT by Mark Goldstein. That's the Massachusetts DOT. As I said, we had about 300 people, and the slides from the webinar are available online at this link. I've got one slide about each of them. Again, Chad talked about what they're doing at the Weather Service for better communication to the traveling public to make them aware. But one of the things that he also talked about that I found really interesting was this post-storm crash analysis, where he was looking at crashes on the roadway, whether they occurred during a winter storm or after the winter storm. And what you're seeing in this bar chart is the crashes that happen during the winter storm are those in blue, and then those that happen after the storm are the ones in that reddish orange. So what we see from this is that um, just because the storm stops doesn't mean the crashes stop. Crashes continue even after the storm does, and so that it helps us inform us in terms of what we need to be doing when it comes to informing travelers about road conditions. So they're thinking that the snow has stopped, I can go out and I can drive now, and then they're still putting themselves at risk. We need to better understand that. We need to better address that through, again, perhaps better traveler information or some other means. And again, the work that the Weather Service is doing, particularly with the state DOTs as part of the Pathfinder project, is really a great way to hone the messages that get disseminated to the traveling public. So that I think that will help us inform our actions there.
Mhm.
And then Göran Blomqvist, as I said, talked about the environmental impacts, and he was looking at about how we apply salt for winter maintenance purposes and where that salt goes, and how, of the percent that we put down, or of the amount that we put down, only a percent actually stays on the road and is effective at what it's supposed to do for snow and ice control. So a better understanding how much of that is blow off versus spray versus just plowing, whatever it might be, will help us know how much material we need to be putting down, and then find the most effective ways to do that, whether it's through pre-wetting or putting down liquids. There are more efficient and environmentally friendly ways to do that. And then last, Mark Goldstein talked about the work they're doing, particularly all the technology applications they've got going on that are really, I think, groundbreaking. And one of the things that points that he made is that it's not just one action that you can take that to solve all of your problems. In fact, the list there on the right in blue shows all the different things that they're doing and the ways that they're using technology to better manage a system. And it's a wide range of options available to them that they use. So that was the webinar. And then in the workshop, again, we had really open and engaging discussion on these four topics listed here: resilience, friction, crowdsourcing, and environmental issues. Had about 50 people. And again, just a thanks to Sean Truelson, Kim Engel, and Wilf Nixon, who compiled the notes from these conversations, and those are available. We will get them posted up on our committee website. They're not up there yet, but that's something we'll post there. But again, there was a lot of good discussion, a lot of challenges, more than solutions, I would say. But there was also some good feedback about what people are doing and how they're using friction data. And this is well, sometimes called friction, sometimes called grip data, but this whole question of road slickness and how that's being better used for a wide range of operational purposes, whether that's determining which some route optimization capabilities in terms of which roads do I need to treat versus others based on current slickness, how much material to put down, where to apply, but also from the performance management side of things and being able to monitor your road network by looking at the grip data that you get from vehicles that are out there on the road. So a lot of
Yeah.
opportunity and emerging solutions there. And then last was the road weather and winter maintenance conference that we just hosted. Again, we being the road weather and winter maintenance committees at TRB. So we had a number of about 39 presentations that were posted online beforehand with the intent of having the participants watch the presentations and then come together to talk about what they've just seen. So they've had all these presentations were pre-recorded, posted online, and then at the conference, the speakers had the opportunity to do a lightning version of their presentation,
Mhm.
followed then by 4 breakout sessions about these different 4 topics listed here: equipment and materials, information management, decision support, performance improvement, and resiliency, and weather responsive transportation management. And again, really great conversations. We had about 75, 80 people at the conference, which was a really good size because it enabled good discussions without people being drowned out by too many voices. And we captured a lot of good information as well there, and some needs, and that's listed here are some of the research and synthesis needs that came out of the conference that we are in the process of fleshing out. First being comparing and contrasting this grip data from non-intrusive sensors versus floating car data, right? So we know that a lot of agencies are installing these non-intrusive sensors that send an infrared beam down to the road surface to get a sense of slickness, which is great for that spot where that sensor is located. But compare and contrast that with floating car data where you've got roads driving the whole network and an opportunity to get the data from all of the for the whole network, not just one site, but only when there's cars driving on those roads, right? So
Yeah.
there's the challenges of which data is best to use in which cases. So we want to do more research in that area. Developing standard rules of practice for mobile friction measurement. Again, things like device mounting. And we had a great presentation there from a gentleman at the National Center for Atmospheric Research, just showing how much variability you can have with these sensors depending on how they're mounted, how they're collecting data. So we need to improve that so we have a narrower window of data that we're getting to ease interpretation. Third research need was better integration of road weather and work zone management. It's lit to improve road weather management efforts in work zones. For example, if you've got a row of Jersey barriers to protect the workers, as you should, is that going to create a flooding problem because you no longer have the drainage
Right.
opportunities that you used to have? And so how do we make sure we're balancing or finding the solutions that work across the board there? And then 2 synthesis topics that came out. One is documenting how agencies communicate road condition and related information to the public. And then the other is exploring employment concerns, challenges, and solutions in the maintenance area. And this is obviously not unique just to winter maintenance community. It's for much of the maintenance community, but it has emerged as a big area. And there's some good work going on. So again, do a good synthesis to see which agencies have managed this process better than others.
Yeah, I was there at that conference, and this idea of the employment concerns came up in every single topic that was there. It's just this underlying issue that impacts across the board all these different aspects.
Yeah, definitely that. Definitely that. Great. So what's next? So we, as I said, we recently held our spring committee meeting, and at that meeting we identified the leads for the five of the six critical topics of our strategic plan, and have people volunteering to sit on each of those working groups to take them to the next step and do some a little more discovery and a little bit more of discerning the where we are with it and where we need to go. And I would encourage anybody, if you aren't already a friend of the committee, to become a friend of the committee. It is free and it's a relatively straightforward process. Just need to set up a free account at my TRB and then you can become a friend. I do not send out a lot of emails because I know people don't like that, but I do try to keep communicating with everybody about what's going on. The call for papers for the 2024 TRB annual meeting is out. Deadline is August 1st. So hopefully when you hear this, that's not too far away. It gives you enough time to put the paper together if you haven't done
Right.
so already. And there is more information available there. And then I do plan on having a fall committee meeting probably sometime in mid-November. And of course, we always meet in person during the TRB annual meeting. So we will be doing that in January of 2024 here in DC. And that is this year's, or the 2024 conference is the week of January 7th. Just get that on your calendars. Hope to see you there. And whoops, here is my contact information. Um, Feel free to email or call me. And also I would encourage you to visit our committee website, which has a lot more information than I just spoke to here, and it goes a little bit deeper into a lot of that.
Yeah. So
So,
what I'll do, Paul, is I'll put all of these websites that you've talked about, your contact information. Those will go in the show notes. We'll put those below this video, so folks can get access. They can reach out to you and find out more about what's going on. I do have a question for you.
mhm.
When you look at the demographics of the Road Weather Committee, um, how does it shake out between state DOTs or units of government
Mhm.
versus academia versus industry? Is the TRB committees, are they really heavy in academia?
I would say that we are well represented across the board. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I think we've got a good split in terms of about a third, a third, a third of state DOT, public agency
Mhm.
representation, academia, and private sector. So even though TRB may be considered more of an academic organization, our committee, I think, has a really good mix of people and a good mix of ages as well, of representation, to be able to have good conversations about these topics, not just purely academic, needs more research types of conversations, but how do we actually make sure we're doing the researching the right things and turning that into useful output.
Yeah, and I think from a user point of view, or from an owner point of view, right? If I'm a local government or a state transportation agency or a contractor that provides winter maintenance service, um, I think having that voice at TRB is really important, because how do folks know what your needs are unless you're communicating them to them?
Right.
You
Right.
know?
And I'm always looking for presentations, whether at the committee meetings, like the meeting I just had, we had a really great presentation by a woman by the name of Brenda Phillips, who's at the University of Massachusetts, and she's doing a project, very applied project for NOAA, National Weather Service, on alerting people to floods and
Mhm.
what is the right how do people interpret information for floods, whether the warnings and watches and such. And I thought it was a great presentation. Her work is pretty early on, so she does not have results yet, but I certainly hope that we'll hear from her again next year with some results of that. But I at my committee meetings, I always invite presentations, and I have a mix. Again, sometimes it's private sector, sometimes it's academic or state. I mean, I like to have a mix of voices to talk about the things that are going on.
Mhm. Now, when you mentioned the spring and fall meeting, that you have. These are virtual meetings, right? Anybody can sit in. It's not like I have to travel to Washington, D.C. to be a part of these, to be a
That
part
is
of this committee.
That is correct. Those are virtual meetings, and we've gotten now into the practice of having virtual connectivity at the annual meeting as well. So even though that meeting is in person, if you're not able to make the TRB annual meeting, you can still attend the committee meeting, and you don't need
Yeah.
to register for the conference to do that. So
Yeah, and
there's
I think that's so important, Paul, because historically, if you couldn't make it to Washington in January, it was really difficult to be engaged and be a part of this committee. And I think you've really gone above and beyond to reach out. So, not everybody gets to travel, so you've made an opportunity for people to get engaged. How do they do that again?
to become a friend of the committee, and then that way I will send out the emails announcing the meetings, and that will have the all the linkages and details at
Okay,
that way.
and we'll put how to do that down below in the thing in the
Yeah.
below this video.
Yeah. In fact, actually, on my on my committee website, we even spell out more clearly how to become a friend. So maybe we should, if we can add that link as well
Yeah,
to that
absolutely.
specific page.
Paul, thanks for giving us the update on what's happening with TRB road weather. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate you coming in and sharing with us what you're doing.
It's absolutely my pleasure, and I certainly appreciate all the support that SICOP brings to, and you, Rick, in particular, bring to the TRB committee.
Well, I appreciate that. So until next time, thanks for tuning in and stay safe out there.